It is time once again. Wow, I feel like I'm really close to the screen for the Horror Syndicate Discourse. This is week 2 of our celebration of Universal Horror, and we started off last week with The Creature from the Black Lagoon and the two sequels, and that was a fun conversation. And this week we will be covering The Mummy, who the first movie, of course, is played by Boris Karloff, Imhotep. And there's 5 movies to talk about. I'm sure we'll linger on the first 2 more than anything, and then move on from there. A couple things before we get moving on uh, the show, the topic. We have our not March, October horror movie madness going right now. Here's the current state of the bracket. So if you are new to the page, we you vote by using the emoji, and I'll show you the 2 matchups that are active right now. It's Doctor Sleep versus Autopsy of Jane Doe, and I believe Doctor Sleep is winning. And then Midsummer versus It, and I believe It is winning. So we're gonna have a Stephen King showdown for the 2010s, and then starting Friday we'll be doing the 2000s. So that'll be a lot of fun. The bracket's already set. I just got to post it. So I'm doing a decade at a time rather than jumbling it all together. And then the 90s after that, and then of course the 1980s, which will probably see the most voter turnout. Also, a couple of I don't know why I just wanted to do this. Clive Barker's birthday today, turned 70, and the late Donald Pleasance, who we all adore. He would have been 103, I think, today. And it's Ty West's birthday. It's a big day for horror fans, or horror creators and actors' birthdays. So cool stuff. But tonight we're going to be talking about the Universal Mummy movies. So hang out with us. We'll talk about all 5 of those. Also, we'll include Abbott Costello, 6 of them. So it's going to be a big episode. Next week we'll be talking about the Dracula movies, and there are only 3 of those. So that'll be a little bit easier week. But the week after that, we've got Halloween Ends. And then we're going to do the Frankenstein movies, which there are a lot of those. We are skipping the Wolfman because we've already done a Wolfman show, and his sequels kind of fall in line with the Frankenstein movies anyway. So without further ado, we've got Seth. How you doing, Seth?
Doing well. How are you?
Seth Hotep. I'm okay. Just had a peanut butter sandwich, so it was pretty good. Because we're out of fucking jelly. Thanks, son, for telling me and leaving the thing of jelly in the fridge empty. Sure.
Did you get any peanut butter on your,
My penis? Yeah. I sure did. Next, we have Gooby. Hey, Gooby, what's going on?
Not too bad on this side of the country.
What's going on? The mummy's on the loose and he's dancing with the devil?
Yeah, I hear tell.
He says that like 3 times in that movie. Anyway, don't forget, if you're new to the show, subscribe to the Horror Syndicate on YouTube and like the page. We are only 78 page likes from 20,000. Jared, can you believe that?
After almost, it's been over 6 years. That's kind of hard to believe.
6.5 years we've been doing the Horror Syndicate.
Yeah.
And it's quite the accomplishment once we get there. I am closing the Horror Syndicate down once we get there, and this is going to be, if we do it this week, it's the last show. So,
Ta-da!
Yeah. Anyway, introducing Nathan Thomas Milliner. Nathan.
Hey.
I love the lighting effect in your room. How's it going, man?
I'm good.
Good. So, who's excited? Who's not mummied out?
I was gonna say, for the last one, I think I felt like a mummy, just like wanting to go to sleep.
Yeah, I did the wrong thing and watched the last 4 all on the same day in one sitting. So that probably wasn't the right thing to do.
I had to break them up, man. I mean, they're only an hour long, but they feel so much longer. I don't get it.
Other than the original, I think the longest one is the 3rd one, maybe or maybe the 2nd one. I can't remember exactly, but what's like an hour and 7 minutes, and each, you could watch the last 3, or watch The Godfather, because you could watch 3 mummy movies in the time that the Godfather takes place, or any 3-hour movie that you like. So anyway, yeah. So we're going to talk about The Mummy from 1932, starring Boris Karloff, which it's a very, very similar movie to Dracula, which came out the year before. They even now have the same opening theme with Swan Lake. But the two of the same actors, the love interest is the same from Dracula, and the hero, Edward Van Sloan, is basically the same characters in the movies. So we'll cover that, the Mummy's Hand, and then the other three the Mummy's Ghost, the Curse of the Mummy, whatever they're called. They're snooze fests in my opinion. Only one of them has a great ending though. It makes up for almost the entire thing, but with the ending, because they actually. Anyway, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. There's a lot to cover, so we're starting with the original, which is based off of an original story too, right? Or is this was this original, or is this based off of something?
I think it was original.
Yeah, I think all of them are original, aren't they?
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on the Mummy, the original Mummy? Seth, you're the bigger fan, it seems like.
So this is one that I've not always really cared for a lot in terms of the Universal monsters. Especially when I was younger and I had the VHS tape. It was my least watched one. I thought it was a little slower than the other ones, a little less interested than some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I've grown to appreciate it over the years, and I do like it a lot more now than I ever have before. And it was nice seeing it on the big screen last Saturday.
Oh yeah. I want to hear about your and Nate's experience with that.
Yeah, so it was cool. I mean, I enjoy it for what it is. It's not my favorite of the Universal monsters. I think this franchise, I like all of them enough, and I'll watch them, but it's probably my least viewed of all the different Universal monsters out there. Like, I'm more likely to watch Wolfman and Frankenstein and Invisible Man and all those films. So.
That's weird that you say Frankenstein. I would never think of you. I mean, Wolfman. I would never think of you watching the Wolfman or anything that has to do with a wolf or a werewolf.
Right, it's shocking. Yeah.
How was your experience in the theater along with Bride of Frankenstein?
It was really cool. I convinced Amber to go with me, and
Did she get some good sleep?
What's that?
Did she get some good sleep?
She actually liked them. Those were her first time seeing them all the way through. Like, she's seen bits and pieces of them before, like when I've watched them, but that was her first time seeing them from start to finish, and she actually really did enjoy them. It was definitely really cool seeing Bride of Frankenstein on the big screen.
That'd definitely be the one that I would want to go for. I'm kind of the same way when it comes to the Mummy movies. I barely ever got past the first movie when watching them, and generally I'd probably watch the second movie, The Mummy's Hand, because it's not that bad. But yeah, I've never been a huge fan of the Mummy movies at all, and I don't know that I've watched the first one. I know I haven't watched The Mummy's Hand in forever, and I don't think I'd seen the other ones. But yeah, I don't know. Nate, how was your experience?
Very similar to Seth's. I didn't really like the movie when I first saw it and found it to be kind of dull, and didn't really watch it a lot. But after seeing it on the big screen properly, I was really more engaged with it and recognized what was good about it. And I think it's actually a strong film. And a lot of it has to do with Karloff. He's really, I mean, you see, whenever he's on screen, you can't take your eyes off of him.
No, he commands the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just got that presence. And, I think maybe once because when you're a kid, you watch it and like, where's the fucking mummy at? You
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the mummy.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, he's the mummy. Okay. As a kid, you're like, where's the guy in the bandages? But because of that, I never watched any of the sequels until this show, and I'm really kind of happy I did because I got to see the sequel, the first one. because the first sequel is a rather good film, and the rest of them I think are kind of, they were rushed. They were just made to cash in, to make some money, because Universal's kind of hurt at that time. They started bringing back all them. Because you look at it, you go, why did they wait so long to make some sequels to these monster movies? And just like, they did because they needed the money, and they started pumping them out, reusing same footage and
a lot of
same
footage, yeah.
sets from other movies they had made. And so the last three are kind of like, am I frozen now?
No.
A little bit.
No, you're good. We're getting spam though.
Oh, now you're frozen.
No, he's frozen.
I'm back.
Yeah.
He's back.
Back. It's just an everyday occurrence. Yeah, I like them. I like the first one. I think it's just a scary movie. Karloff's scary. There's some things I'll bring up. Someone else could talk, but there's some things I wanted to touch on it. But yeah, it was cool seeing it on the big screen. Seeing a Universal horror movie, 2, was a treat.
Have you ever drawn the Mummy?
Yeah, I'm going to be drawing him soon again. So.
Oh.
Draw
Okay.
both versions. I'm gonna draw both versions.
Both, yeah.
Oh, for the 31 days of.
Both Karloffs, not the sequels.
Oh, you're not gonna do Karis?
No, I don't really care for that look, and those guys. I mean, it's shocking that they got Lon Chaney Jr. to do 3 of them, and apparently he hated it. He hated the role.
I heard that he carried a flask inside the.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, so like when he's lumbering around as the Mummy, he may have been drunk.
That does not surprise me one bit.
Yeah, you guys never heard that?
Seems like they must have just thrown some money at him to get his name above the title, because that's what's there. It's above the title. Lon Chaney will sell the movie.
Yeah,
And they must have just showered him with money, because it's really a role that's kind of really beneath him.
yeah.
At that point, I mean, he'd done the Wolfman a few years before, and now he's like just on a mask for 3 movies, and really shitty movies. So,
I have a theory that when he trashes that room at the end of the 4th movie, that was right after they told him he's got to do one more. He's like, what?
I heard that. I think that's the one.
Movie.
And we're starting filming in 3 weeks.
It's like one of them. When he's trashing a window or something, he actually got cut really bad or something. It's like you see blood on his cheek or. Yeah, but it's kind of shy when you think of it. Wow, how they must have. All the budget must have went to paying Lon Chaney for his name.
I don't know why they would put him in there. Like he's unrecognizable. There's not much to the performance. I mean, if you really think about it, he walks around, with one hand up here, like he's, doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
But it is cool though that he played the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Frankenstein monster, and Dracula.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's why they wanted to get it. He's a man of many faces, so. But I guess, and plus having him build in the movie probably helped bring people to the theater to see it, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like in the 5th movie they don't even use makeup; they just made a mask, so it's easier to put on. But I loved finding out that he was drinking out of a flask that was hidden inside the bandages of the Mummy's suit. I was like, oh. I think if I had to play the Mummy and be wrapped up in that suit and wear a mask or prosthetics for that much time, I'd probably do the same thing. And I don't drink, so often. Anyway, Jared, what about you, man? What are your feelings? I know you said today that you asked if anybody was mummied out. I was mummied out on Sunday. I fell asleep and I had to rewind one of them.
I think it was kind of like the way you did it. I binge watched the last 3 after watching the first 2 together, and it just felt like the wind was out of my sails by the time the 5th one rolled around, and I still watched it. But overall, the franchise is what it is. Like you guys have already said, the first two are actually really good films. The second one, we can kind of, if we're going to break it up, I guess I could talk about that one later. You know, the second one was kind of a surprise. Yeah, I don't have really anything bad to say about it. I wish I would have got to see the original on the big screen like you guys did. That would have been kind of fun.
Yeah. May have given us a different perspective, because ranking them today, when you asked if we could rank them, I was like, I think I like the second one a little bit better. But after thinking about it a little bit more, like preparing myself for the show, I'm starting to think about some of the things about the original movie that I really like, especially the opening scene and how slow and kind of creepy that the beginning of the movie when they, you know, he finally starts moving around, and especially how much the actor who is scared out of his mind really sells that moment. I really like that moment, and also the makeup work on Karloff's face and the way Karloff controlled the screen, and he, you know, like that was one of the best things about that movie. And one of the things I noticed was his costume. The way it fit his body was very slimming on him, and he wore the fez, so he was like, looked like he was much bigger than everyone else, you know, and which made him more of an opposing presence. And I liked that. Actually, I got the close-up picture of his face. It almost looks like that's the bandages of kind of like, you know, like I don't know what the word is, but like they're like part of his face now.
Yeah, left remnants on his face.
And I mean, so like thinking about this, and this is a classic movie, but it also has one of the best posters of all time.
Kind of like when you leave a sock on too long or something like that.
Yeah, he's just really fucking dehydrated. So the bandages, because like, I mean, these are really great makeup jobs, you know, especially for that time. Well, just like the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost better. It's kind of better than the Frankenstein monster.
No, I think it is better.
It's pretty. And what's really a shame is like he's only on screen as the mummy for a few seconds. Like I think a lot of the shots from what I read were a wooden mannequin made up. There's only like a few shots of actually Karloff, and it took like 8 hours to put him in that makeup, and he's probably on screen for like 8 seconds of that.
Yeah, I heard that he fell asleep in that he may have been asleep in this picture. I heard he fell asleep in the makeup, and I wonder if he's sleeping right there.
I know he told like Jack that he forgot to put a zipper in because he was in it all day.
But anyway, let's talk about the first movie, the things we liked about it, the things that worked. Like I said earlier, and I mentioned it to you guys after I watched it again, I saw a lot of similarities to Dracula, which had come out just a year before that, which kind of took away for me a little bit. A lot of the movie took place in that one house, just like Dracula took place in that one house, and you've got the love interest in Edward Van Sloan. They used a couple of the same actors. The one cool thing about this is the flashback scene, which I wanted to talk about, which they reused like 3 times. But they even showed a guy get fucking skewered with a spear.
Yeah.
And, you know, like what like for 1932, really?
Super. That was violent. I was shocked. I forgot that. I was like, wow, that's kind of violent for these movies.
Yeah, for sure.
And just the whole horror of Karloff being mummified alive.
Yeah.
Is pretty scary and shocking as well. Yeah. I mean, it's got a great backstory. In some ways, it's Dracula, but also in some ways, it's almost better than the storyline is better than Dracula. There's an interesting thing. Like one of the things I wanted to talk about was the director, who I kind of feel like, why did I not know this guy's name or pay attention to him before? Because you always hear about Todd Browning or James Well, and so Carl.
I was gonna say he got his start on Dracula, didn't he?
No, he was doing it way before that. Karl was a German cinematographer. That's where he
he did the cinematography for Dracula. That's what it was.
And he was a cinematographer for Dracula. But
gotcha.
There's a lot of information out there that Todd Browning was often missing because he was an alcoholic or he was drinking, and that Carl actually directed a lot of Dracula
Really?
in his absence, and he was uncredited. And the reason a lot of people said it is, Carl started out with guys like Murnau and Fritz Lang in Germany. Carl was the one who shot Metropolis.
Really?
Yeah.
He shot The Last Laugh with Murnau, which The Last Laugh is like Carl he made a lot of innovations in cinematography. He started this thing called the unchained camera, where a lot of cameras were always on a tripod before The Last Laugh. And there were dolly shots there were, but Carl would actually like take the camera, put it on his chest, and he was able to move things, or he would do all these crazy moves with cameras, and like the camera was moving, but it wasn't just moving to move, it was moving to tell the story. The camera became the storyteller. It was for the first time, and he innovated these things, put them on a cart. He had dolly shots. I was watching a bit of The Last Laugh today. I was trying to watch the whole thing. I got like about halfway through it. Beautiful film. Photography is incredible. 1924 film, 2 years after Nosferatu. Murnau done that one. Of course, that's what he's known for mostly. But Carl worked with these genius filmmakers, and so a lot of people will point out Todd Browning's filming was kind of bland filmmaking, but there are because there's a lot of parts of Dracula, because people talk about how the Spanish version of Dracula is better made.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the shots are really bland in Dracula, but there's some shots of Dracula that are really phenomenal, and some people say that's Carl's work, that's not Todd's. Like that's when Carl was shooting Dracula. Carl went on to shoot Key Largo, great Humphrey Bogart film. One of the other things he innovated was he was the guy who shot the bulk of I Love Lucy. He shot, I think, 165 episodes of the 180 episodes.
Wow.
He was the one who innovated the lighting that they would use for live TV. So sitcoms used his innovation on how to use the 3-camera live thing. He didn't invent the 3-camera thing, but he decided to have them lit so that they didn't have to change everything and they could film it. There were a lot of other innovations that he made as a cinematographer. And, he only directed about 10 films. And The Mummy was his first. His last was a movie that I loved that we're not going to talk about, Mad Love with Peter Lorre. But I was kind of embarrassed that I didn't know Carl's name or what he had done, because just Metropolis alone, to be the guy that shot that movie. And I think that's why I started to really respect The Mummy when I watched it. I was like, okay, it's better made than Dracula's made, filmmaking wise. But yeah, there's that. I found it really interesting that because I looked it up and it said director Dracula uncredited. And I was like, really? I got to find out what that's about, because I'd never heard that Todd didn't direct Dracula alone, like that somebody else covered for him when he was hiding his flask in his mummy costume. Like, wow.
I had no idea he was doing that. That's interesting to know. We'll have to remember that for next week when we talk about the Dracula films, the 3 movies, Dracula's Daughter.
Yeah, from what I understood, like I think he had like a friend who passed away or something like that around that time, and he was like emotionally distraught.
So that's why. Drink.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I didn't realize. Well, I realized that he was the cinematographer on Dracula, but that who wrote this movie and Dracula? Because they're very similar. And not that I'm saying that the
writer, do they have the same writer? I think it seems like they do.
Oh, look, that's what I was kind of wondering.
Research time.
Well, I know the film was, 10 years before this film was made was the discovery of King Tutankhamun's.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was kind of the popular thing. People were fascinated with Egyptians and mummies and the curse of Tutankhamun.
King Tut.
Actually, the
Different
script
writers.
was written by the same person who wrote
Different writers.
the first draft of the Frankenstein and Dracula movies. John L. Balderson. They scripted the movies, and then Nina Wilcox Putnam wrote.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Richard Scher. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I would assume that Universal has a lot of these people in house anyway. You know, they probably use a lot of the same writers, and just like Hammer did. You know, Sangster did a lot of the stuff for Hammer, so they probably had like a whole corral. And that guy, that first name that I said, who I already forgot his name, he had written scripts for Dracula and Frankenstein and the Mummy. So, and then the Mummy went through rewrites, I guess, with that other person. So I wonder if the people at Universal are like, oh, this is way too similar to Dracula. Let's change this up a little bit. Because even some of the it starts off in a foreign land, just like Dracula does, you know, and that's that. Then they go to a more contemporary location, and then like I said, Edward Van Sloan plays the hero type, and then you got who I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays the love interest, and there's kind of like a love triangle again, just like in Dracula. So
and the guy's laughter that you talked about after the Mummy went for a little walk. You know, it's very reminiscent of Renfield.
Renfield
tries laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Madness and Dracula.
Yeah, which that might be one of the reasons I like that, because he sold that being terrified so well, in my opinion. And I think he was a silent film actor who hadn't been in many talkies at that point, so he may have been overacting a little bit in that scene. But I liked it. I thought it was great. You know,
that's my favorite scene in the movie. To be honest,
I would probably agree with that. Although I like the scene at the end of the movie when they figure everything out with the Ankh thing and all that stuff. So I mean, again, like I said, like watching it for the first time in like 3 years, and kind of like really diving in more than I ever had, and then thinking about it today, and I really like it a lot better than I thought, even with the similarities to Dracula. It's a pretty good movie overall, and I gotta one of the best parts about the movie for me is Karloff's performance and being in that makeup. He looks so fucking great, even though he's not the lumbering zombie, with a flask full of vodka. He still looks fantastic.
The makeup he's wearing, even when he's not in the rat Mummy, but what's it name? Ardeth Bay? Is that what it is?
Ardeth Bay, yeah. Look my name. Come on, Ardeth Ray.
Rick Baker was talking about that makeup, saying it must have been extremely painful or bothering because of the chemicals that they were using. There's a piece called collodin, which I used on my movie recently. It kind of pinches your skin and kind of gives you like scar looking. So he had that shit all over his face to give him those wrinkles. It pinches the skin, but also like the fumes and everything, the smell. Rick Baker said it would have been really fucking difficult to withstand as long as Karloff would have had to just take it.
Maybe they added to his performance.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's really cool because I watched. I started watching the Frankenstein movies a couple days ago because we were going to do that next week, and so I went from watching Karloff in this to Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, and it was like going back again thinking about the Mummy. I'm watching Frankenstein, thinking I'm so glad. And I've seen Karloff in other movies, of course. He's in one of the other Frankenstein movies with a more talking role, a more speaking role. But like getting to see him use his acting chops as Imhotep or Ardeth Bay in this movie, it was really nice because his voice is excellent, and very kind of imposing sounding. I love Karloff's voice in this. It gives me the chills thinking about it, And that stare, that 1,000-yard stare that you see in the movie like this is just fucking phenomenal.
Well, it's like his voice and Vincent Price and maybe Peter Lorre just have those classic great horror voices. You know that Boris Karloff. You know, like that lisp that he had. You know, there's something about it. But there's a calming. But like say he just has a stoic presence.
Very stoic, yeah.
And it's when he's intimidating, even though he's really only 5'11", I think is what his actual height was. Of course, everybody was shorter back then, but
Thanks.
and he wasn't a huge guy, you know, like he wasn't. But you know, as the monster, he looks massive. But I don't think he was actually taller than most of the people on the script. Of course, they just put him on an apple box or something, you know, put people on step. But I love the sets. I love the costumes. I really do. I put this as my favorite of the franchise just because of I guess I'm leaning more towards the horror element because it is a pretty horrifying story. Like, what happened to him? His backstory is really fucking cool. This love story of like he wanted to bring her back and he defied the gods or was doing something blasphemous and he was punished and they mummified him alive. I mean, he's buried alive. It's pretty fucking horrific.
Blacklisted him, stripped all of his jewelry off of his.
He was canceled.
Yeah, he was canceled.
He was canceled. And then with her, you know, trying to basically do the same thing that like to turn her into a mummy to be with her, you know, do what was done to him, I guess. Just some really interesting, cool stuff in this movie. And I love the sets. I love when he's like trying to have the scroll in the museum, and the night watchman comes, and he's like, "What are you doing?" You know, and then lights go out, and he kills him off screen or whatever. Like, there's some really cool stuff in it, and the choice to not show the mummy, like just the way, like we talked about that opening scene where we just see the hand come in and grab the scroll, and then see the bandages moving out. You know, to have that makeup and to have the reservation to say we're not going to show that much of them. We're going to be graceful about our shots, which probably goes into Carl working with people like Marnow and Fritz Lang, who were geniuses.
Yeah, there's one of the things I was watching, the female lead in this movie. What did you guys think of her? First of all, the one thing, and this is just a weird thing to say, but did it appear that her head was way too big for her body?
She's built like a lollipop, man.
Yeah, okay. Especially when she's in the Egyptian-looking stuff, I'm like, Jesus, she's got a giant head.
Little bitty shoulders and arms, and really tiny body. She kind of has a Drew Barrymore feature. Like Drew Barrymore always had features of that era to me. When I see Drew, I think of actresses like this actress.
I can see that.
Yeah, I hear her and the director did not get along at all. They hated each other.
Was it because she was the most in the skimpiest outfit of any Universal leading woman?
Well, apparently he tried to rattle her when he met her, telling her that he wanted to have her in the third act topless.
Oh.
And apparently back then, I didn't know, you know, of course, before the code, it was not uncommon for actresses to be topless in movies, apparently, back at that time. He came from Germany, too. If you see a lot of foreign films back there, it wasn't uncommon. But he thought that she would, like, get rattled by that. She said, well, why? Is it? And he said, well, you know, he told her, and she said, okay, yeah, doesn't bother me. And she goes, if you can get it past the censors or the people that make the decisions. And but apparently, like, they just did not like each other. And there is a lot of word that she was very difficult. She came from theater, and she had no respect for film people. Like, she thought that she compared film actors to whores, basically. She just said they were, but apparently she stayed to film because she liked the money, so I guess she was a whore too, I guess. But there was a guy that wrote, I guess he did a biography on her or whatever. We met her, and she was, it sounded like it was like Gloria Swanson fucking Sunset Boulevard. Like when he interviewed her, she was all diva and she had to get the right lighting. And he goes, "We weren't even filming, but she had to have the right lighting."
Steven says they had beef because the director tried to lick her lollipop head. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Well, she said that he did what he did because it was his first film and he needed a scapegoat, someone to blame if things went bad. So he was going to blame her as a troubling actress and the reason anything went wrong.
If she was, I don't know if she was or not. I didn't read much on her, but I honestly I didn't care for her much in the movie. That, like, you know, putting her against Julie Adams and the actress from Frankenstein and Dracula and all that stuff. She's just one of the weaker, in my opinion. Even in this series, I can't remember the lady's name in The Mummy's Hand, but I think she was much better and given more to do. Just kind of like from Creature 1 to Creature 2, the leading lady got more to do. I don't know. Something about this one, I didn't really care for her very much. Plus, I've been waiting through the whole series to get a woman singing at the beginning of the movie in a bar, and that didn't happen in the last movie. So I don't know why I said that. Anyway, that for some reason a lot of that last movie stuck in my head, from the bar singing to the guy saying it's been 25 years past, which would make it 1995.
Something, because it was 30-year jump from hand to to
yeah,
tune.
so it would have been 1995, and then the Mummy's on the loose and Dance with the Devil. Anyway, Seth, let's wrap up the Mummy if we can. Is there anything you want to specifically bring up, or?
No, I mean, I think we covered it. It's I think we all agree that it's definitely better than. It seems like it's better than we all originally thought it was. And thinking about it too is based kind of like what Nate was saying. Like, I think my issue that I had with it when I first watched it was I was looking for that mummy figure, the wrapped up mummy, to be the monster throughout the entire thing, and then just didn't get that. It was a different type of monster movie, but it's good. I really liked the beginning sequence. I really liked that moment where the guy just kind of went nuts, from the shock of seeing this thing they just dug up coming to life. Yeah, it's good. I like the next one a little bit better, but
we're going to talk about it a little bit. The last three we don't need to spend too much time on, I don't think. But The Mummy's Hand I do want to get into, because first of all, I want to say out of all of the 5 of the Mummy movies that came out from Universal, with the exception of Abbott and Costello, because I didn't get the chance to watch, I don't have it. I think that, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Hammer 59 Mummy. It's like a combination of the first 2 movies, but I think it's a way better movie than this. Any of these, I really enjoy the Hammer one. So I wanted to just throw my suggestion out there. If anybody, and everybody knows I'm a Hammer whore. I love Hammer movies, but the Hammer Mummy movie. Have any of you seen I know Seth's seen it, I believe.
I have not seen that one.
Okay, we're definitely going to cover Hammer next Halloween season, because there are 4 of those, and I'm looking forward to watching. I'm getting ready to finish my Scream Factory order, and I'm getting the Mummy Shroud, and Seth was kind enough to send me Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, I believe, and there's one I'm missing, but I'm really looking forward to that because I really like that movie. Peter Cushing is in it, of course, so I have a man crush since I was little on Peter Cushing with Star Wars, and then watching him. I watched The Curse of Frankenstein before the show today because I just needed my fix. So anyway, Jared, do you have anything you want to say about the Mummy before we move on to The Mummy's Hand?
No, I mean, you guys really hit the nail on the head really well. I really didn't notice a correlation to the story in Dracula until you guys started like fleshing it out a little bit, and I was like, I can definitely see that. I'll just do one little quick drawback to when I was a kid, kind of like how Nate was saying, you go into the movie expecting to see a mummy, and you get no mummy. That's the only beef I have with that movie. Other than that, it's classic. It is a classic. Like it's.
Well, I mean,
they say that the mummy in the title is actually her.
Is her?
And there was a whole section that was cut out of the movie that was shot of all her reincarnations.
Oh.
Through Viking times, through all these different times. They filmed it, but they cut it out. And apparently, like, the actress was like really into reincarnation. She was somebody who was really into that stuff.
That's a shame. Release the cut.
I'd be behind that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, if they still have the footage, is probably long gone.
I think there's stills from it, but that's I think probably all that's left.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. That in the movie probably would have been a whole hour and 25 minutes then.
It was just too long at 1:13.
Yeah, come on, they're gonna lose people's attention span on you know, you gotta make it just over an hour. So anyway, yeah, so The Mummy it's an absolute must for horror fans, in my opinion. I think if you don't watch The Mummy, you're just not getting it.
You mentioned the poster. It is a beautiful poster. Apparently, it's like it's sold for one of the highest prices any poster's ever sold for.
Yeah, I don't have the picture up. I wish I would have saved it. It's on my Facebook though, because when I watched it, I posted I was watching because I need attention.
I got it there.
Oh, there you go. Seth's got it behind him too. Yeah, that poster is so cool. I have I have one too. It's just I don't have it framed yet. It honestly.
I got no poster.
Where this might be my least favorite of the beginnings of the series, it's one of my favorite posters for sure. I'm not a huge fan. I got one of the Dracula posters in my living room. It's red with Dracula like he's biting the girl's neck. The Frankenstein poster is pretty iconic, but the Mummy one, man, that's just in 1932. You see that and you're getting chills looking at that mummy.
Mummy's got the best poster from those films.
Yeah, I think so. Mummy's in my closet.
All the Universal.
Did Seth freeze?
A little bit.
He looks back. I don't want Seth to freeze. He might have to get the old chop, the Seth chop. We're gonna have to use this for when Seth has a bad review. He's gonna get the Seth chop.
Yes, nice.
Anyway, so yeah, moving on to The Mummy's Hand. Seth is gone. Damn it! This is his movie.
One he loves. Yeah, I love this too. This was a fun movie, when we talked about it in the group, how it's definitely an influence on Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones, which, I mean, the whole time I watch it, like, this feels like Indiana Jones or Romance in the Stone a little bit, like, or even more Jewel of the Nile, because the two guys, felt like Danny DeVito and Michael Douglas and like Jewel and I were teamed up, where you got the short little guy. Yeah. I don't know their actors' names. I know the little guy was from vaudeville, which is obvious pretty much. I mean, he could have been like Lou Costello in another life, but he also was good looking enough to be a normal actor as well. I think he did do a lot of normal.
They were very Costello.
Yeah, and the other guy was kind of a cowboy actor. He was called the Singing Cowboy. He did some of that stuff. But I thought they were great together. And he's playing basically Indiana Jones, an archaeologist who goes on adventures and seeks out artifacts. And
that's where I mentioned when they rebooted The Mummy in '99, they definitely pulled from this movie.
Oh yeah.
I looked into yeah, there you go. Kathleen, all's left is photographs. Watching that, I totally got the vibes of the treasure-seeking adventure like in Indiana Jones, but I really do think that even the 59 Hammer Mummy let's talk about that again. But like, I really felt like, the main characters like your Rick O'Connell from the 1999 film, and then what's his Babe Hansen or Jensen. They changed his last name in the next movie, but Yeah, Babe was definitely kind of like the Jonathan character, even the Egyptian guy, Benny, a little bit, you know. But yeah, and yeah, same thing. Like you could tell that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg had to be influenced
Oh
by this
yeah.
film.
I mean, there's a lot of other movies of that time period that were like Indiana Jones movies. I mean, they were based on the serial.
Well, George
Sure.
Lucas,
This movie,
he cites the serials of the 20s and 30s for sure.
yeah, but there's so much from this movie that it had to have been partially an influence on.
I'm sure, yeah. You can
Especially,
see it.
especially doing because the first Raiders Lost Ark takes place in Egypt, and there's
Mhm.
all this Egyptian shit going on, and there's no mummy, but there might as well have been.
Babe is solid.
uh, but yeah, this like I think the first two movies are equally good. I think that this one is the more entertaining one because it is kind of an action comedy horror movie, whereas the first movie is pretty much a straight thriller horror film and love story.
Right, and then we're also 10 years into the Universal cycle, and this is the second wave, right, Seth? This is the second wave of Universal movies, and so it's more of a well-oiled machine getting to that point at this point, especially in Hollywood at that time. And when you get to the 40s, they've been in talkies for over 10 years, and so it's not as like we talked about it at some point where I talked about how like a lot of these older movies, like they feel more like they're stage plays because they are in one room and it's a lot of people talking back and forth. Where this one, by 1940, you're on location, or maybe not on location, but the sets are more sophisticated, and there's a lot more going on. Like they had a cave, they had the tent, they had all kinds of stuff. Plus, they had a magician, Sylvanie or whatever. He was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing that separates this one from the other sequels, is this one has great characters.
Yeah.
It has a great cast and great characters who are defined and enjoyable to watch. And that's where the last
lady
three
whose name escapes me, she was great too. I like whenever the first time we meet her, she's with her dad, who's Sylvanie, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna be rich," and she's like she's the brains behind the operation. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna strike it rich, aren't you?" And all this different stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And she gets mad. She even goes to the guys and pulls the fake gun and shoots it at them. And she's a pretty awesome character, actually. I wish I knew her name. I can't think of her name. But yeah, The Mummy's Hand's very entertaining. Like you said, more so than The Mummy, but maybe they are on an equal playing field. Seth, what are your thoughts on The Mummy's Hand?
The Mummy's Hand is my favorite of this series, mainly because, like Nate was saying, the characters are so likable. I think the protagonists are much more likable but much more likable and interesting in this movie than they were, say, in the first movie. The first movie they were just kind of standard, like Edward Van Sloan is being Edward Van Sloan, David Manners is being David Manners.
Yeah,
and there's a formula to those. And when Universal went back to doing horror movies again, they just sort of upped everything up between with this and like Son of Frankenstein, and just I don't know. And I like the adventure setting. I really dig Karis, even though his backstory is exactly the same as Emotep, except for with Tana leaves instead of the scroll. But I like Karis. I like getting that sort of that mummy that you would expect from a mummy movie,
Yeah.
And I can't remember the actor who played him, but I thought
Tom Tyler.
Tom Tyler, yeah, yep.
Tom Tyler, who was Captain Marvel in the serials in the 40s. That's what he was known for. So yeah, I thought he was great. I think he's better than Lon Chaney in the role.
Oh yeah, totally. And even with like the close up of his face, like especially with his eyes, like he just looked very like zombie like. He looked a lot more, I guess, menacing than say Lon Chaney looked in the later ones.
Yeah, they went out and blackened in his eyes on the film. Like
I was gonna say it looks like they did something to his eyes every time there was a close up.
Yeah, the
It
black
was all post done on the actual film reels. It wasn't like he wasn't wearing anything.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't have like contacts like that back then.
But I mean, that's still cool, and I mean, still his face and his makeup and his just overall look, and you know his
the gimp
body
arms,
language.
cool.
Yeah, I really liked the way he was holding his arm. I don't know, it's like something I want to draw sometime, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie's just it's a lot of fun. It's not perfect. It's definitely not like one of the top tier Universal movies, but it's definitely one that is rewatchable, and I always enjoy watching it. It's the one
of the better sequels, I think.
I think it's the only part 2 that I would put above it is Bride of Frankenstein. I think it's probably maybe the best part 2 of the Universals, other than Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
I can't think of another.
It's fair.
Part 2 in the franchise or the Universal monster movies. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Frankenstein in a while, but I think I like this probably more than that movie because it was so fun.
Yeah, I think I would agree. The Bride of Frankenstein is hard to replace as the best sequel.
Yeah, you can't. Bride of Frankenstein is arguably the best Universal monster movie. So to say that the Mummy's Hand is better than Bride of Frankenstein would be like blasphemy or something.
Yeah.
Because like watching the Bride of Frankenstein on the big screen this week, it's like, Jesus, this movie's so good.
You guys are so lucky.
No, I'm jealous.
I'm too. I was at the baseball game, so I mean I had fun, but God, I watched Bride of Frankenstein 2 days ago. I'm sitting there watching. I was like, those sons of bitches got to see that on the big screen, and I'm sitting here watching it on my TV. I can't imagine how great that ending and Dr. Pretorius, who I fucking adore from that movie. You know, I can't imagine how awesome it looked, and seeing the bride not unraveled, but you know when they're holding her. I can't wait to talk about those movies. Those are some great ass movies.
Yeah, it was great seeing like James Whale's like visual style like on the big screen. You know, just with the way the sets are, the camera tilts that he does. It was cool.
I wanted to ask. Nate said there was only about 9 people in the theater. How many were in there for you?
I would say about the same, which is like 8 times more people than were in with Barbarian, and 9 times more than the amount of people who were in with Pearl. I was the only person in Pearl, and there's only one other person for Barbarian.
That's a shame.
So there's more for the old Universal. Good for them, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, that's good for the classics.
100-year-old movies. I saw Rosemary's Baby finally, and I loved it seeing it on the big screen. But it was me and my kids, and then 2 other people in the whole theater.
I think the most packed one I ever went to was Die Hard.
Oh, really?
Oh, the theater was packed.
I saw Evil Dead 2. They did a double feature of Evil Dead Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and it was a packed theater. I'm curious. I got tickets to see The Shining on Sunday. I'm curious to see how many people are there for that, and then possibly seeing The Exorcist the week after that.
I saw Psycho a few years ago, and it was almost full.
Really? Jaws was the same way when I saw Jaws in 2019. So, but yeah, I love that they're doing this, showing these old movies because I'm taking the kids to see these. Reynolds hates the Exorcist movie with a passion. Calls it boring. Blah blah blah. He watched Rosemary's Baby. He's like, if I watch The Exorcist like this, I may like it. I'm like, well, it's coming to the big screen, so maybe we'll go see that then. It's only $5. So
one I'm hoping to see is on October 29th. They're playing Danny Boyle's Frankenstein that he did on stage with Benedict Cumberbatch and Jason Lee Miller.
What?
That's the production that we're doing here in Shelbyville.
Is that the guy from Trainspotting?
Yeah, and
Benedict?
It was a new take on the. It's all from the creature's perspective. The play starts with the creature being born and discovering things, and it's all these little cool things like when he blinks, when he closes his eyes, the lights go out in the theater, and when he opens them, so you're experiencing life and things with the creature. And one of the other cool things is that Benedict and Jason
Johnny.
swap role. Johnny, I think it was Jason was wrong. Johnny would swap places. So one night they didn't know which one they were playing, Victor or the creature.
Wow.
And it's really fucking good. The script is amazing. I really wanted to fucking audition, but my back kept me from auditioning. But I had done art direction for it and been a little bit a part of it. But they're playing the video version of the film's version of it on the big screen in theaters for like Fathom or something on the 29th. So I'm kind of wanting to see it because I've seen clips from it and it's pretty damn amazing. The script is amazing. Got some really amazing scenes in it, and we're putting it on, at the end of October for like 2 weeks.
Let's see where you're at.
It's called. It was written by Nick Deere. If you ever want to read the script, the play, I highly recommend it if you like Frankenstein because it's a really cool take on it. It kind of just strips everything down and simplifies it. Very, very straightforward take. It really focuses on the love.
Is it called I Want to Dance with Somebody? Oh, no, that's a Whitney Houston movie. No, I'm joking. Is it just called Frankenstein or?
It's called Frankenstein by Nick Deere. Danny Boyle was the director when they did it.
Oh, shit. I've got a couple of theaters that I'm going to. I got Lost Boys and then Halloween coming up before Halloween.
Yeah, we'll see Halloween on Halloween. We're not getting that Frankenstein. Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Trick or Treat are coming to my theater. They're showing on the 14th. They're showing all 3 Halloween movies together. 2018 Kills and Ends. I really wish I didn't have kids sometimes so I could go sit there and watch.
And then we got Dawn of the Dead in 3D.
Oh, there's none of them. That's not around me. That pisses me off.
Really? Oh, me either.
Yeah, I'd be there in a heartbeat, and I'd take both kids because they like that movie. My daughter loves Dawn of the Dead. She, I gotta tell you guys. I know we're supposed to be talking about the Mummy, but we were watching Rosemary's Baby, and she turns to me at one point and she goes, "Is his name Guy?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Who named their kid Guy?" I was like, "I don't know. Somebody in the 1930s." Anyway, so let's get back to the Mummy's Hand because we still have 3 other movies to kind of dip into 4 if you talk about Abbott Costello.
But the only other thing I really like the Hand. I really like the actor who plays. I guess he's the High Priest, the one that takes over. Kind of has a Frank Langella kind of look about him or something. Like the guy was really fucking good, and I guess he played in some of the other sequels too, the same character. But he had a great presence and look and intimidation. I was just like really taken by this guy's a great villain. The one I guess who's summoning Karis.
The old guy.
Yeah,
he was in Maple too, wasn't he?
Well, in the sequels he was.
Okay.
Where they made him old, 30 years further.
Yeah.
But in the Hand, I was like, this guy's great. Like this is the kind of like he would have been a great like villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. Like that's why I think it started giving those vibes. Like this guy's kind of got a taut kind of feel from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
He definitely does resemble Frank Langella for sure.
Yeah, I just really dug him. I was like, I like this guy. But overall, this movie is just, I was really totally entertained by this one. I thought it was. I can see why Seth really, really loved it, and it's his favorite because it's kind of hard to pick a favorite between the first 2 because they're totally different films. Really,
oh yeah,
in tone and everything,
both
good. But I can see why someone would like Hand more because it's it's more enjoyable to watch. Like I would probably pop that one on more often than the other.
The only thing that I didn't like about this one is there's no women with lollipop heads. So No.
The woman's built normally. You know?
Yeah, she is normal. Well, I liked her actually. I think one of the biggest strengths of this movie, and I mean, there you see that in the first Mummy, but the cast is great and they're very entertaining, especially the relationship of Babe and the other guy, Steven.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, their relationship was really great. Just like we mentioned, kind of an Abbott and Costello feel to them, but more serious.
It's like Abbott and Costello, but not as comedic. Like that's why I kind of lean towards Danny DeVito and Michael Douglas and Jewel of the Nile.
Yeah,
those movies are underrated,
like,
by the way.
Yeah, I love those movies.
I love those movies.
Romancing the Stone's one of my favorite movies.
I saw Romancing the Stone before I ever saw Indiana Jones, and I freaking loved it. Especially that scene where Danny DeVito goes over the hot coals. You remember that? And he's like, "I'm one of us." You know, I love that. And plus, Michael Douglas he's an excellent actor. I love him. But anyway, yeah.
That's my favorite Michael Douglas role. Is definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That role.
But I think anybody who hasn't seen any of these Universal Mummy movies, all 5 of them are on Peacock right now. So if you don't have the copies to watch, they're streaming on Peacock probably through October. So check them out if you haven't. What's the next one, Seth?
The Mummy's Tomb.
Jared, did you have anything to say about the Mummy's Hand before we move on?
I wrote one word down when I was making notes. Whimsical.
It's a good word for it.
No, yeah, it's like I've already hit the nail on the head on the first 2 movies. Like, yeah, it's an adventure film. It's not a horror film until you get to the last 20 minutes or so and the tent scene and stuff, and then the attacks start. But
yeah, the tent scene.
There's a reason why this one can hold up with the original. It's like you guys said, it's the character. It's a character-driven movie more than anything.
Yeah. Where the next 3 movies kind of just bleed together for me.
There's effort put into The Mummy's Hand. You know?
Yeah.
These movies feel like they were just like, let's make some money, guys. Get it done next week.
George Zucco's in this one, and he shot.
Yeah, that's the guy, George Zucco. Yeah, George is the guy.
This is the one that's just like.
That's the ghost, not the tomb, goofball.
Huh?
That was the ghost, not the tomb.
Is it the tomb next?
The tomb.
Tomb is
the third one.
Jesus. Oh, that's the wrong one too. Jesus.
We're all fucked up right now.
Let's just go with that. Okay, so let's talk about. I don't have that poster on here.
Oh.
I didn't save that one. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, let's talk about the 2. This is the one that is you get like a 15, 20-minute recap of the last movie, and the movie's only 60 minutes long.
Yeah, I'm like, look at that. I saw the runtime, and I'm like, Jesus, we're just getting the recap of the first movie or the second movie. And I was like,
didn't they use the flashback scenes from the original movie again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they show. I think it's this one. They show scenes from Frankenstein, the mob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All about the cost cutting in this one.
They're just like, let's just. We got all this footage. Why? I think somebody said that. Like, why should we reshoot it? We've already got the footage. You know, why should we do more? But it's like you feel gypped. Like I would have felt gypped if I was going to the movie in 1942 or whenever the hell it came out. And like I'm watching it, like, all right, this movie's only an hour long, and half of it's like movie I already saw, and it's just exposition. It's like our characters from the second movie telling us what happened in the previous movie. It's like that's horrible. That's not good filmmaking. It's like, and the thing is, like, the whole movie is just like that, and then watching them get bumped off by the mummy. Those characters we liked that have really. We really don't get any color from them or anything in it at all. It's like it's like not even like they're the same characters. They're just there to be killed.
They didn't even have any scenes together.
Yeah, they don't have any scenes reunions or anything.
Awakens.
And then once they're gone, now we have these 2 protagonists who we don't even fucking know or care about yet. That the movie's over.
Left in the movie.
Yeah, and it's like I was like, this movie's terrible. Like I remember writing you guys, this movie's balls, man. Like it's Like, and you coming from the second movie, you're like, such a letdown. It's surprising that 2 more got made after that one.
Yeah, and obviously the draw was Lon Chaney, but again, the Mummy was barely in the movie compared to the last one, really. And it's just, what were they thinking is my question. Like, I'm confused as to why they would. I mean, they did the same thing in Silent Night, Deadly Night. Explain the entire movie exposition. With a different, or the character. Even though it's a different character in that, but still, it's like you're wasting all this fucking time on a movie. If you're watching in order, and I get it's the 1942. If you missed the Mummy's Hand, you missed it. But like, but you don't need to spend a third of the movie on the story from the last movie. And I mean, it sucked that the characters from the last movie, the two things that you said was they didn't have scenes together, and they get kind of bumped off unceremoniously. It's like,
yeah. So Rachel Carruthers times 3 years.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just sad, and it was just like, it was frustrating to watch. Like, I don't know. It's just, I guess maybe they were just thinking, hey, the kids are coming to see the Mummy, and that's what we're gonna give them. I guess we'll just throw the Mummy in there and have them kill people, and
well, this is the
really,
one that
they become really repetitive.
Did this one feel like a slasher to you more than like an early slasher? Because he was just going. I mean, he was using his bare hands, but still, he was bumping people off left and right. Where more so than you see in any of these other movies. So I was like, this one really kind of has a slasher feel to me.
Kind of felt like a cheap slasher movie.
Yeah,
it did. Kind of felt like one of the, not even a Friday the 13th sequel, but a Prowler Part 4 or something.
No,
like,
I'm glad they only made one Prowler.
What is Sleepaway Camp 4? It's like,
yeah, this one's just.
Here's your Mummy. Here's Jason again.
Yeah, this is why I didn't have a poster for it. But I did hear that this is a favorite of this guy, so it's
he's a fun guy.
Yeah, he's mean mugging you too.
I'm never getting rid of those pictures. Just so you know, and this one either. I mean, we're just happy that this guy's birthday. Anyway, yeah, Seth, do you have anything you want to add to that? I know that you seem to be an avid fan of the Universal movies. I think more so than any of us. So,
yeah. So I understand a lot of the issues that people would have with this one. I mean, it is, especially like I think Nate even mentioned it, like coming from watching The Mummy's Hand to this one, after kind of getting to know and like these characters. It's totally a fucking bummer. Like, I don't understand the decision to jump 30 years. I don't understand why it couldn't just be these guys like 2 years later, and have them continue on.
Yeah, they could have gone against the Scorpion King.
Yeah, but there are some things I do like about it. I do feel like this one more so than the previous two had a little bit more of like that gothic feel to it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shame, that they didn't have Steve and Babe together, and they wrote off the I forgot her name, but the chick from The Mummy's Hand as she's dead.
Sylvani's daughter.
Yeah, and it was very repetitive. With you have the one high priest given the duty to the next one, and it was like basically the same thing that happened before, but with a less interesting actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't dislike it. I don't know.
I think you're the only one.
Yeah, and I understand that too. I do. Just yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This was the one that I admittedly fell asleep and I had to rewind it and rewatch parts of it because it just it was not great, you know. And not to say that any of these movies are really well. I guess the first one's pretty great. So is The Mummy's Hand, but I don't know, playa.
Yeah, it's the one where, you know, just everything. This is the one where the series started going downhill for me personally.
Yeah, when it started really running out of steam, that's for sure. And by the end of the series, which is The Curse, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
Yes.
they really ran out of steam, and you could tell it was like. Jared, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. I do like the mob scene at the end. I thought that was really effective. Chasing him down in the, you know, the old plantation house.
Did you see the guy fall down the stairs and roll over fire?
Yeah.
Did you see that? He legit rolled over fire and didn't get caught on fire.
He must not have had any accelerant on him.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of like Seth and Nate already alluded to, like, you definitely wanted some kind of better closure for the other actors, because the characters' portrayals in Mummy's Hand were so, you know, profound, and they, you know, you actually gave a shit about these guys, and you have all this group of reporters that are in town because these crazy mummy attacks, and one of them's interviewing Babe, and then they all run out of the fucking bar because they heard about an attack across the street and bar. Babe turns around and he's like, "You haven't got to see my card trick yet." I'm like, come on, we didn't even get that. No, that's what I was thinking when that scene happened. I was like, he didn't even get to show his card trick. He was going to, you know, he was, and then he's dead.
Yeah, and
Rest
then
in peace,
the
Babe.
characters from The Mummy's Hand were pretty great, like Babe and Steve. And yeah, I just think this one's kind of a dud. So, anything else we want to say
Yes.
about the tomb, the Mummy's Tomb?
I think I had this ranked 4th out of 5.
Which one was 5?
Number 5 would have been Curse, because I have Ghost ahead of Tomb because of John Carradine and the ending.
Yeah, the ending was good.
Yeah,
So
Ghost is
let's,
a better film.
My computer's acting like a jerk.
I wanted Carradine to play.
Am I
the
still
mummy,
on?
man. He had that gaunt. He would have been great in that makeup.
I would have been down for that too.
There's something about, you know, Lon Chaney's a big, bulky guy. You know, the other guy was fucking Captain Marvel. You know, it's like Karloff looks so great that,
I know.
you know,
When you think of a
mummies were not fat.
exactly, they're
They were, like,
emaciated.
shrinking down. Yeah. So when you see him in Karloff, when he starts coming on, it's creepy, and you're like, he looks great in that makeup. The sunken cheeks, and I'm like John Carradine would have looked great in that.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is this one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is the one with John Carradine, which everybody was really hating. John Carradine's the guy who takes over as the caretaker of the mummy, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 3 or 4.
Yeah. And this one is still 1970, by the way, if you're paying attention to the timeline. So, you know, stylistically, it's
Just
bright.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, they really killed it.
Spot on.
Spot on.
Vietnam
yeah.
War's going on.
Yep, Vietnam War. There's bell bottoms and all that shit. But I mean, this
How's
one,
we going? Now, see? It's 1970, see?
this one had a good ending. That was the big redeeming factor.
Yeah,
because
that's
it was
only-
kinda- Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
No, you go ahead. You guys like that ending, and
You didn't like the ending?
This, I did. It's the saving grace of the movie. Otherwise, I was like, I won't have to watch this again.
Right, yeah. I told Seth, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to watch the last 3 Mummy movies again. But yeah, like the movie was kind of like another, what do I say, paint by number, almost like even like a slasher again. And it like by the time the ending happens, one thing I noticed, I liked the what was going on with the leading lady, with her hair and stuff. And then by the end, he's taking her out to the swamp. Spoiler alert, by the way. And she's slowly transforming into Ananka, which I thought was really cool that they had the balls to do that, and it wasn't a happy Hollywood ending for once.
Downer ending, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it reminded me like of what was it, Son of Dracula. I mean, the ending to that movie is quite powerful too, where it kind of ends on a really emotional moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of like what?
Oh, Ramsey Ames that played Amina. She was fucking hot, man.
Yeah, I think
apparently she's done stuff with Lon Chaney in the future. She did another couple movies with him after this, Calling Mr. Death and something else.
In my opinion, this should have been the last of the Mummy movies. I think there was a great way to wrap up the series with that.
Yeah. The only thing I liked about the last one was when she resurrects, when she comes out of the ground. It was really creepy footed. Like,
yeah.
I really love her covered in dirt. I thought it was very striking. Other than that, I don't remember anything about these last 2 movies. Other than the ending in that moment.
They should have casted that same lady for that 5th movie, I think.
Oh, I thought the actress in the last one was very attractive. I liked her. But, I just think these 2 movies are kind of, I think the last 3 are kind of expendable movies. I'll probably watch Hand and the original and then never watch these 3.
Yep. That's kind of how I feel. Although I did get a kick out of the guy saying, Mummy's on the loose.
Well, I like the dudes in the bar in the beginning of Curse. I thought, we're getting some humor. We're getting some kills for characters again. We're getting some, something worth watching.
And plus, you get that great musical scene.
It was a little uneven.
I mean, there's a lot going on with that musical scene. Plus the bartender and his wife, and the one guy's like, "You should have married me."
It's like a little bit of color that just doesn't last.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. These last couple were kind of uninspired movies. Like we said, the ending of the 4th one was really good, and then after that, it's like, why make another one?
They were milking it. They were just trying to
milk it for all it's worth.
Lon Chaney name and the Mummy.
I can't imagine that he would have liked being in these movies.
Didn't the last 2
he kept doing them?
The last 2 came out the same year too. Didn't they?
44.
Yeah.
Literally 6 months apart.
Yeah.
I was looking up the release dates when I saw that. I was like, Jesus, they were renegade filmmaking on those 2.
Ooh, excuse me.
Am I the only one that watched the Abbott and Costello one?
I think you are. I don't have it, and I was already moving on to Frankenstein at that point.
I like Abbott and Costello. I like Luke Costello a lot. He's hilarious, and that's really the only reason to watch this one. This was the 38th. I think they made 38 movies in 16 years together, and this was the second to last one that they made together, and it was the last of the monster movies that they did. I think they did maybe 6 or 7, and it's just kind of like the same thing. Like they rehash. It's like who's on first thing, and they do that kind of where like he's handing him a pick or a shovel. Like you take the pick, I'll take the pick. You pick the pick, I'll take the shovel. You took the pick, you took the shovel. They go playing on the words. But Luke Costello reacted to the monsters. But what's really upsetting, when you see the mummy looks like he's just wearing pajamas. Like they just half-assed. It's a mask and pajamas. Like it's not even wrappings. It's like a one piece, like some kids' pajamas with
like footy pajamas
painted on it or something. It just looks really cheap. But at the same time, there's like people dressed up pretending to be the zombie. Like Abbott dresses up like a zombie to trick. Because this is like they're two Americans who are hired to transport the mummy back to the United States, and there's this woman who's trying to get the amulet or the jewels, the riches with the mummy. So, and they murder someone, and then Abbott's in the news as being the murderer, and it's like this whole slapstick murder mystery. People are after the same old shit we've seen a lot of. But Luke Costello is worth watching just because he's always funny. And his reactions to monsters and being scared is fun. But, I like it more than the last three mummy movies. I'll say that. It's because it's fun, but still not a movie I'll probably throw on again. There's 37 other Abbott Costello movies.
That's a lot. I didn't know they did that many in that short a time, especially.
That's more than 2 a year.
Yeah. Yep. That's fast math, Jared. So yeah, we talked about the mummy movies. Now we can knock that off of our checklist of all 10,000 horror movies we're trying to cover. Overall, I think that we've talked about it. I think the first two are the only two. I hate to say it, worth watching, but I want to get your guys' opinions before we go. Jared, what do you think? What, Gooby?
Well, I mean, we kind of ran through the gamut. I do think there are some redeeming factors for Tomb?
Yeah.
The fourth one? I don't have my notes by me now. I just took them out of the room. But yes, the first two, in my opinion, are must-watches of any horror fan if you're wanting to dive back into the deep history of horror. Those two are definitely worth watching. The third one, it's kind of a letdown. I mean, I did like the ending with the mob mentality. It kind of had a Frankenstein ending a little bit where the mob kind of came and attacked. But the fourth one was probably the only one that had any redeeming qualities out of the last of the three. Carradine's performance was amazing. The ending was bleak and dark. So I can see why they did the fifth one to kind of, you don't want to end a franchise on something that dark. You
got to make Freddy's dead.
Yeah, it's like... Although I think that was probably my favorite ending of the entire franchise was the ending of the fourth one, just because of I kind of like bleak and dark shit anyways, but like there's no hope with the ending of this one. Carradine dies. It looks like a floating doll falling off there. The dog doesn't even help. He's trying to tell everybody, get to the well, get to the well. They didn't get there. The mummy took his princess.
Yep. I like that. I like that. Nate, give your overall on the rest of the series.
I will never tell anyone not to watch anything because I think everyone's different and everyone takes different things away. You may like these movies. I definitely think the first two, like Jared said, are required viewing for horror fans. And again, if you like Indiana Jones movies, you're probably going to like The Mummy's Hand. Because or any of those, even again, we talked about the Abbott Costello type of thing that you kind of get from it, the straight man and the funny guy, but it's not as extreme as those films are. Like in the comedy, it's not a comedy. but the characters are very cool. So you get the like nice moment where he makes the bet with the magician. He doesn't know he's the magician, but the other guy knows, and he knows he's going to lose. And like he's trying to do a card trick to a world famous magician. That's kind of funny. But it's like go up to like David Copperfield, say, "Hey, have you seen this one?" And like you don't know who David Copperfield is. Yeah. So it's got a lot of fun to it. I think even if you're not a horror fan, I think you could enjoy The Mummy's Hand, just for the characters alone. But again, I think any if you're really into horror, you need to see Universal's horror films in full, just to have that experience and say, hey, I saw all those. And I'm glad I did, because I really had only seen the original. So I was glad to finally see all of the creature films and now all the mummy films. So now I think I've seen all the Universal monster movies.
And now we can rank them. So
yeah,
I think it also helped pad my 1940s horror viewing. I'd only seen a few of them, and now I've got an extra 4 onto that. So that's pretty cool. But I agree with what you say about the Mummy's Hand. It's a fun movie. Required viewing along with the first one. Seth, what about you, man? I know these are your favorites of all time.
I wouldn't go that far.
There's no werewolves in this movie.
Right.
Yeah, right. There are wolves that howl at the moon.
They're wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The jackals.
So this is
I was
a
gonna say,
series.
did they ever explain why those wolves were in Egypt? I guess they'd be jackals, right?
They called them jackals, and then they thought they were jackasses.
It was like Bela Lugosi getting into the movie.
Yeah. Go ahead, Seth.
So I've seen all 5 of these movies many times before, because I tend to watch these Universal movies a lot, and I go through each one at different times, and I like all of these enough. So it's not like where I'd say I'd never watch these again, but the thing that always sticks with me is that when I go to think about this series of films, I can't tell you, most of the time, I can't tell you what happened in the last 2.
Yeah.
They're very forgettable, because I still need to do an article, a ranking of the series to continue on with what I began with on the Horror Syndicate website. And every time I go to do it, I'm just like, I don't remember anything from the last 2 at all. They're kind of forgettable. Like I don't mind them. Like I'll watch them, and like you guys, like what happened with you guys, if you watch them, especially in a marathon, you definitely feel it by the end.
Yeah.
But there's just.
What if you got an hour to spare?
That was
Pop
my
in the
mistake.
Mummy's Ghost.
Yeah.
Thankfully they're so short.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I can get through them all pretty fast too.
Yeah.
Like when I watch the first one, I'll watch the second one, and I'll just keep going, and it's over with relatively quick. But like I said, the last 2 were just forgettable for me. But I do really enjoy The Mummy's Hand a lot. I enjoy the first film a lot.
I bet you do, huh? Like The Mummy's Hand, huh?
It's mold.
Little dusty down there.
Yeah. Chafed me. Yeah. So next week, you got anything else?
Need some Tana leaf juice on that.
Yeah.
Hands.
You get that Tana leaf. So next week we are moving on. So we were going to do the Frankenstein movies, but Nate sounds like he's not going to be with us next week. So we're going to skip ahead and do Dracula, and we'll do. This is my favorite Universal movie. Just so anybody wondering why I have so many images of Dracula on my computer already. But we're going to talk about Dracula. The classic, the love story. It's very screamy and scary, terrifying, horrific. We dare you to see it. And Dracula's Daughter, which is a movie. And then The Son of Dracula. Oop, that's the Dracula. The Son of Dracula with Lon Chaney, which I actually like this one. It's a good
It's
movie.
just crazy that we never got Bela Lugosi in these sequels, like because he was the best part of Dracula.
Yeah. Then it, but
Like, the,
The
I mean, we
one
got three Karloff monster movies, thankfully. So, I mean, was so much Dracula, like it's like what could have been if we'd gotten some sequels with him.
he got to be a vampire again in Return of the
Yeah,
Vampire,
I mean,
which is a good movie.
he got the other things, but still, to see him play Count Dracula again, like in a really good sequel,
Mm-hmm. That would have been
as a
great.
horror character.
I mean, he's fantastic as Dracula. Look at him hamming it up. We may mention the Spanish version, which was really good too. But yeah, I mean, this is the iconic image of Dracula is based off of Lugosi, and I mean, you can still see the medallion at Halloween stores now. The cape with the high collar, and that's Dracula to everybody. And Lugosi's the one who really, and same thing with Karloff and being the monster. That's the what people think of when they think of Dracula and the Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
So
When I see like Strange and Bela and all them as the monster, I'm just like, it's just not the same.
No.
It's just not.
but arguably Bela Lugosi's second best role is in The Son of Frankenstein. He steals the
Igor.
whole fucking movie. Yeah.
That's actually my favorite performance from him. So
Yeah, it's pretty close for me because I love Dracula so much. But he steals that movie. He's so good. I cannot wait. That's my second favorite Universal movie, Son of Frankenstein. I think it's better than the first two, honestly. A lot of it has to do with Basil Rathbone and Seth. What's his name? Help me. Lionel Atwill.
oh yeah.
Yeah. And of course Bela Lugosi and Karloff. But anyway, yeah. So that, and then the week after that, we'll be talking about Halloween Ends. Finally, we're finally getting an ending to the movie. I bet that Michael Myers gets his head chopped off by Laurie Strode, but we'll find out. It's a paramedic.
I bet you Evil will die tonight.
Yeah, 100%. What do you got there, Jared?
Oh, that's
Is
beautiful.
this what you've been cuddling with the last few nights?
Yes. I had it under my pillow because I had to watch all of these movies.
So, are you guys down to do a complete ranking of the Universal Monster movies at the end of this?
Oh, shit balls.
Because I'm ranking as I'm going. So,
I'm going to have to rewatch all these because I love the Invisible Man franchise.
well, we're doing the Invisible Man franchise.
Oh, God. How am I supposed to watch any new movies, guys? You guys are already like 20-something deep on 2022.
After October, I guess. Yeah, because we're doing the Frankenstein movies the last week of October, which is going to be a big episode. So I hope you guys are ready to stay up late. And then, in my opinion, Frankenstein has the best sequels.
Yeah.
There's so many, and
There's no question
like the
about
Mummy,
that.
they're all pretty good for the most part.
Yeah.
And when you get to the House of Frankenstein and the House of Dracula, then they kind of start to peter off a little bit. But a lot of them, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
That first trilogy they're all
yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, we almost need 2 episodes for the Frankenstein movies because you got the first 3 movies, and then you got the second set of sequels that are very good also. So
I always kind of lump in Ghost of Frankenstein though as like part of a quadrilogy or whatever, because I think that one's pretty solid too. It just doesn't have Boris Karloff.
Well, I mean, they changed the monster in every movie after that, don't they? I mean, it's not. Did anybody duplicate the role after? Because Lon Chaney, Lugosi.
I was going to say Lugosi played him once too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a very odd performance. Yeah, well,
it would have made sense if they followed the
that's what I was saying.
continuity.
Yeah, because he was blind and he got his brain, but he never said a word. We'll get into that whenever we get to those movies, which I'm really looking forward to talking about those movies because they're probably the cream of the crop of the Universal sequels. So, but again, next week it's all about Dracula. So get ready to talk about Dracula, and Nate's gonna miss this one, unfortunately. but it sounds like he's going to have a fun time anyway. And then
I was going to ask, are we going to cover out all the Spanish version as well, or are we just doing
want to?
Titans?
We can.
I mean, I've seen the original so many times. I could rewatch the Spanish one.
You need to watch the what's the score? The new score.
Oh, with Philip Glass.
Philip Glass, yeah. So they did a new score with Philip Glass doing the score. So you might want to check that out if you haven't. I think it's on there.
It is.
It is.
Yeah. And then yeah, and we'll talk about the other two, son and daughters, Dracula's daughter, which is really I don't really want to watch. The only movies that we're not going to get to are She-Wolf of London and The Werewolf of London, which I mean we can add them to our list. But
there's the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movies, Phantom of the Opera movies.
Oh man, I forgot about all that.
The Old Dark House. There's a lot of stuff we're not getting to. But
the Old Dark House, I think,
horror monsters.
Like a full episode that and the any remake they did of the Old Dark House. So
or the Cat and the Canary, which is kind of similar.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna rank what we watch. How about that? What we discuss. Anyway, that's all we got for tonight. Remember Dracula next week. Halloween Ends, the Frankenstein franchise, and then the Invisible Man, and eventually we'll do the Phantom of the Opera and all that good stuff. How many? Is there only one Phantom of the Opera movie?
No, there's a couple.
Is there? Well, I mean, like, are there sequels?
There's no sequels.
Wow.
They're just remakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's one from 25, and then they did one in the 30s, I think.
40s.
Is that right? Is it the 40s?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Robert Englund was in one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway, Dario Argento did one too.
Yeah. He also did a Dracula movie. Oof. Have you guys seen that?
I haven't seen that one.
Oh man.
Yes,
so I would find it weird. First of all, I have a daughter. Seth has a daughter. All of us basically have daughters. Two, if I was directing a movie, I don't think I could have my daughter topless in that movie. And
she's been nude in several of his movies.
I know she has, but it's weird that he was filming her nude in a lovemaking scene and just completely naked, and that it's just weird to me. But I'm American, he's Italian, so Italians know best.
It's artistic.
In Italy, we all naked.
Yeah, we are always naked. We were born.
I cook my pasta naked.
Well, then they take that and then they project it to the eye scenes.
Yeah. Anyway, have a great night. Watch some horror this weekend. Remember, Peacock has a lot of the Universal horror movie streaming. If you have the taste for some Hammer, there's a lot of Hammer on on Peacock as well, and on HBO Max. The Curse of Frankenstein's on there. Watch that on there today. So you guys have a great evening. Nate, we'll miss you, but we'll come back and talk about Halloween.
I might still be on.
Okay. We'll never count Nate out. Never count him out.
Special cameo.
Special cameo from.
If anything, I'll jump on for 30 minutes and give you my opinions.
So you are gonna watch the Dracula movies?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch them. I'll watch them anyway. So.
Yeah. I know you're not a big vampire guy. I love.
I it's more of I prefer. Like Seth, I was a werewolf kid, so I was like, fuck vampires, but I love Dracula. So
yeah,
I get tired of the. I got tired of some of the vampire movies that were coming out, like the Anne Rice thing. I wasn't really into it. I wasn't into the Masquerade and all the elegant vampire bullshit. Like I was like, I want monsters. I want Nosferatu. I want my vampires to be beasts.
Oh, you know what? Before we go, are you guys at all excited about the remake of Nosferatu?
Hell yeah!
And they just released casting news of Bill Skarsgård. I'm guessing he's going to play Count Orlok.
He would be great.
Yeah,
Count Orlok.
I'm more excited now than I've ever been. I'm going to revisit the original 22 and then the Klaus Kinski version. I'm going to buy from Scream Factory because it's only $8.50. Because I don't think I gave those movies a fair shot ever. I mean, it's hard being in 2022 and watching a silent film for me. But I need to give it a fair shot because it's 100 years old and it is a bona fide legendary horror film. You know, one of the first of its kind, really. And I know Jared really adores that movie. So
I do.
Watch Shadow the Vampire too.
oh, I love that. I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yes.
fucking fantastic.
Just do a
By the
triple
way,
feature.
Willem Dafoe can do anything.
Yep. And John Malkovich as Murnau. That's a great film.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I need to send you guys something. It's Robert Pattinson breaking down his most iconic roles or whatever, and you got to watch the part with the lighthouse and him talking about the lighthouse. It's fucking hilarious. I never knew how funny this guy was, but it's really funny. I'll send that link to you. Anyway, I could talk to you guys all night, and that's it. Have a great weekend. We'll talk about Dracula on Wednesday, and then Halloween Ends. I'm really looking forward to Halloween Ends. Just watch some horror. Tell all your friends. We're getting close to 20,000 likes on Facebook. Only like 88 away. Tell your friends about the Horror Syndicate. Tell them that we posted something about Sherry Moon Zombie and it had 14,000 reactions. Anyway, have a great night. We'll see you next week. Bye.